Welcome to the EU LCS postgame lobby after week 5 of the summer split. I'm Dracos here with Ender, Vedius, and eventually Rockat's jungler Memento. You may notice there's a spot on the floor. A chair will go there soon. In the meantime, however, I have these lovely, beautiful faces in front of me to talk a little bit about what the hell I just watched. Roccat are awesome. Where did this come from?
Man, yesterday you said if you were to take a player out of a team, who would be affected the most? And you wanted us to say Memento. None of us did, right?
You wouldn't do it for me.
We wouldn't do it. But today, we have to. Because that man is a machine. Like, he finds early game leads. And right now, when that team has an early game lead at 15 minutes, they're undefeated. It's actually unbelievable how amazing they look when they have gold to play with.
And earlier today, QuickShot posed the question, will Roccat win Worlds? And I mean, if they win half of their games, then all they need to do is win that first one in the best of 5 and they get
Just win the other half.
Yeah, just win all of them.
Wait, thinking about it, if you start the best of 5, win one, lose one, win one, lose one.
That's what I'm saying.
Win one.
Wait. So this, as we take a look at some of the awesome plays in the moment, I do have a theory. It's a bit loose, but bear with me. If you take Gangplank with Kleptomancy and Ezreal with Kleptomancy and don't do anything in the first 15 minutes, you'll always have a gold lead at 15 minutes, and Roccat will win every single game. That's how stats work, right?
Yeah, in theory. God. You may have solved the mystery. But we'll see how the rest of the season progresses. I believe we're now being joined by the wonderful Memento.
I was told to stand by to invite him, but I'm glad.
I wanted to do it. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you.
Memento, we just praised you a bunch. I know you're getting mic'd up, so you may have missed half of it, but we also heard from Norskaren in the interview that he's like, well, also this moment. Like, just 1 second, we appreciate that.
I mean, he doesn't know how to hug.
You earned a hug after that one, though. You both did. So the thing I want to ask is Norskaren kind of brought up this thing that this not a 50, it wasn't a 50-50 because you're winning more than you're losing, but your explosive play style is I think the words that he used, where you go off and you carry a game, in this case on the Kindred. And this is the games where it kind of starts to fall a little bit. What's the difference here? How do we know when we're going to see this explosive Memento game versus some of the games where it doesn't quite go as well?
I mean, I think it just depends on what kind of jungle matchup I have. In this case, they just blind picked Trundle, and I know Kindred is really good into Trundle, but they ended up just disrespecting in the second ban phase by banning... They banned Camille, which is like a pretty good matchup as well, but then they decided to ban Gragas, which kind of made no sense to me. So I was just really happy, so I just locked in the Kindred.
I mean, it was a good look, and it was a super dominant win, too. Normally, when we see teams that are below in the standings, it's always a little bit shakier, a little bit back and forth, but Roccat looked really clean when you guys start off really well.
Yeah, so talk to me about why you play Sejuani. Because when we look at when Roccat win games, it's when you have early game focused winning jungle matchups, and I mean, sometimes you've lost games with those same jungle matches, you just don't find the same early skirmishes that you typically want. But also, when you pick Sejuani, to me, you're not setting yourself up to play in a way in which you found the most success.
I mean, I think it's kind of bad to just, as a team, to just have one play style. So I don't want to just play, like, just carry junglers and just go, because at one point in playoffs, they're just going to end up, like, banning us out.
Yeah.
So we're still, like, practicing other comps, and we've had some success in scrims, so we decided to, like, try it out. But it ends up that we always play against, like, when we play against Fnatic or the higher teams, they always end up banning out, like, the strong junglers.
Right.
And then we see these kind of games where we're, like, really confused. So I think that's our main focus right now, what we're trying to do. And of course, I love playing Sejuani. I believe in my team as well, you know?
That's fair.
Whereas it would be kind of douchey just to be like, no, pick the carry, I'm going to play. So.
That's very
much the case. Of course, this just in, player of the game, none other than Blanc. Yes. It's Memento. You got 50% of the votes. Nobody was even close, man. You absolutely crushed it this game. Not in the damage department, but every other way.
Nah, I'm all about the pressure, man. I'm just being there, you know? Never auto-attacking.
Showing up, looking good, things across the board looking pretty solid for Roccat. You talk about kind of expanding your strategies. You guys made it through your Nightmare Week. We called this a really incredibly tough week for you. The 1-1 looking all right. How are you feeling about the second round robin now coming in? Do you think this is a solid run for top 4? Or are you just looking at playoffs right now? What's the next big step?
I think for us, the most important thing is just making playoffs. Then top 4, top 3, I mean, okay, top 2, 1 obviously matters, but I mean, the rest doesn't really matter. We're just looking to make playoffs, and from there, we just want to move forward. Because the last year, or last split, I don't think we really deserved to make playoffs, considering how like demolished we got in. Yeah, so we're just looking to improve from here, and I think we have a solid chance to make playoffs.
True. I do want to say, though, that you guys did have the head-to-head against Misfits, so I feel like you earned it. I know that you weren't happy with your performance. I know playoffs was a struggle for you guys, but you also smashed a team that was beating top teams left and right. So there is a little bit of credit there. But after your win, I think it's fair that we take a look at the standings. We see how things have been shaken up. For you, Christy, outside of Roccat, what stands out the most to you? What is the most interesting thing at the end of this week?
Well, I mean, the fact that the top 2 teams coming into the week, G2 and Misfits, both picked up a loss, really just sort of sends the standings into a bit of disarray, because there's so much parity between these teams now that we have seen those top teams been taken down a few times, that there's a lot of room for these teams in the 5 to 6 range to step on up.
Yeah, I think.
Do we believe in Schalke, though? 6-4 right now. Their schedule has been better over the last 4 games.
But here's the thing. They played against Unicorns of Love,
Yeah.
H2K,
Yeah.
Giants, and Splice.
Yes.
That's a very easy, compared to playing against the top teams of the league, that's a much easier schedule to go against.
So let's get your opinion here, because we had G2 members on the podcast last week who had a lot of people hard rooting for Schalke as this playoffs contender. Where do you think Schalke stand right now, Memento? Do you think they're a clear favorite? Do you think they still have a lot to work on?
I think they still have a lot to work on. I don't really see them as... because we saw the game against H2K yesterday where they seem to really struggle how to close out games.
Yep.
So I think they still have a lot of weaknesses and they're not really a top 4 team yet.
So, in my opinion, right, and I will use Memento as an example because it's a good one. When you look at Roccat, right, you have very clear win conditions in that if Memento is able to just get a slight early game leads, Roccat has enough understanding of how to play the game that they can actually close out games very cleanly. Just like we saw against G2. When they have a lead and when Norscaren's on a playmaker and when Memento's on a carry, the team looks very, very good. And sure, they are experimenting with other things. It is one style that they have a lot of success with now, but you kind of have an idea of, actually, I could see this strat being good enough that they could take down top teams. For Schalke, there's nothing like that for me that enables them to stand out relative to other top teams. I think Nukeduck is good, and I think that they have found success by playing through Nukeduck, but Nukeduck has not been an exceptional carry that I think could suddenly take down the top 3 teams in Europe. And they just feel very standard. They feel like a middle-of-the-pack team that would beat teams that are below them, but will struggle against teams above them because they just feel standard. There's nothing special about this squad.
Okay. The issue with that statement, so assuming I agree with everything else,
Sure.
right? And I think there's a little bit of debate about Nukeduck,
Sure.
but if we just assume that they beat everyone below them, Betty's there in 4th, dude. If they beat
no,
everyone in below
but-
them, they stay in 4th
But
place.
this is the thing, when they play against Roccat, I don't think they will. I think Roccat or Splice will beat them.
Yeah, Rocket for sure, man. Like,
Yeah.
those guys are pretty good. Those guys are really good.
Okay, so my question is, where do you see, taking standings out of account, where would you rank Schalke right now then? Because you're talking about them
I would
beating
put them 5th, flat 5th.
flat 5th. So they beat everybody but Misfits, Fnatic, G2 Esports, and Roccat.
So originally I would have said Vitality, but Vitality have been on a downward trend. And right now, if Splice can play like they did earlier in the day, I would argue that Splice is better than Roccat. Based on what I've seen.
I'm sitting right here, man.
Based on what I've seen. But yeah, I think Schalke would sit around the 5-6 mark for me.
Ender, what's your take here? How do you think the top 6 looks, standings aside? How are you feeling about how these teams stack up? Are you a firm believer that Schalke might be in that 5th place slot? More importantly, do you believe that Roccat are 4th in the same way that Vedius does?
Well, I didn't say that.
You said they were above them!
I said Schalke's above them, but I also said that Schalke could be in 6th, depending on how consistent Splice are.
All right, so Betty's saying literally nothing concrete. So do you want to give me something
I'm
here?
going to take the firm stance here, and I think Splice is actually a better team than Schalke at the moment, and I would put Schalke down into 6th spot, which was one of the options you gave Vedius,
yes.
but that's the one that I would say firmly.
Okay, fair.
So if we ignore the bottom 3,
I would say right now how it is, these 6 teams will make playoffs. That's my stand on
Ooh,
it.
you're kicking Vitality out.
So that was the follow-up that I had. So Vitality does not make playoffs for you.
No, I don't think so.
What's the difference now between spring and summer that decides that?
I think spring they had like the surprising factor, or what do you call it?
Surprise factor, yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
X factor.
Yeah, where they would like play. They played really confidently, and
Yeah.
they made like these kind of plays that no one else has ever made. Everyone else just follows Korea. They follow play normal League of Legends. These guys come out of nowhere, rookies. they're just making a shit ton of plays, and it works out for them really well. But right now, I feel like they don't really have any more cards.
Yeah.
Like I think that today's game was a perfect example. They like to dive top lane, right?
Yes.
But they don't really seem to care about any other factors that the jungler might be there or the mid lane might be following. And they're like, yeah, okay, let's just try dive this guy, and if it works out, I think we'll have a lead. And or if it doesn't, then we throw the game.
So there are 3 things I think really stood out for Vitality. Number 1, they got red side pretty much every game in the first half of the split. And red side was really OP back in spring, and they took big leverage of that, making sure that they would have winning matchups. The other big thing was that Gilius consistently played around Jizuke. It was like a mid-focus meta, and they found a lot of success enabling him. And I think the other big thing was, because they had such a fantastic start, getting into playoffs was a lot easier for them, in the sense that they started their first half of the split 7-2. So I think many things went in the favor of Vitality. And coming into this bit, they no longer play around their mid laner. The creative picks worked initially, but teams have figured them out. And their playstyle is very linear. They will fight you a lot. And you know they will fight you a lot. And so if you just draft in a way to compensate and prepare for that, then teams, just as demonstrated today, can mitigate it.
All right, Ender, do you agree? Are you just kicking them out of playoffs too? They're 5-5. They're in the 3-way tie for 5th right now.
Yeah, so I think I kick them out too. What I look at is last spring, you're talking about surprise factor. It was the fact that they were a team that was willing to play in the early game, make Gilius, making all these crazy plays, going for the 50-50s. And that was when all the other teams were trying to scale for late. So they would just surprise people, blast them early game, and be able to close out. But now that the meta has shifted and we have 30-minute games instead of 50-minute games, all the other teams are doing very similar things, and it's much easier to exploit them at their own game.
I think today, during the game, one of the casters, who was casting that game?
I was.
That was you, right?
Yeah.
And you said, it was a really good point. You said, Vitality do not know how to stop. Like, they do not know how to just farm and take it easy. Like, these guys are, how far behind are they? 6K, right? Yeah. And they have, like, a pretty decent comp, you know? They could chill, they could take it easy. But they just group mid, engage, and then... I guess we lost that fight too, huh? And then we're 5K behind even further.
Yeah. The other thing is that I think is kind of not mentioned as much. Last split, we had so many new teams, right? Because this Roccat squad was brand new for you as well, right?
Yeah.
And G2 was new. Fnatic was
Fnatic? Yeah, Fnatic.
Yeah, Fnatic was new. Misfits was new because they had new mid. Like, all the teams were new and figuring stuff out, whereas Vitality...
Fnatic was new?
I can't remember. Oh, wait, no, they kept...
It was
Hylissang, yeah.
Oh, no, but that was Hylissang.
Yeah, you're right. So Fnatic wasn't new, but they also finished...
They had the least changes, but they still had a new...
My apologies, right. But my point is that the vast majority of our league last split was a lot of new players and new teams, and one of the most consistent things we heard was we're still figuring out how we as a team like to play, right? And I feel like now that that consistency has been found, a lot of the teams know how to play with each other. They know their strengths and weaknesses. Whereas Vitality already had that coming into spring because they'd already been that challenger team for like an entire year, and that synergy was already inbuilt. So they already had a style that was not only unique, but was well practiced, and they all were comfortable in that environment. So I think that was also a big factor in their success. And right now, a lot of teams have figured them out, and they haven't changed. So I think it is a compelling argument. If they make changes, I still think that they have good enough players that they can contest. But yeah, I think Memento makes a good point. Right now, they're the ones I would kind of kick out of playoffs.
So the next thing I want to look at, we're talking a lot about teams looking to lock in playoffs. Schalke was a team we talked about and touched on. You talked about them not being able to beat teams above them. Well, they're going to be going toe-to-toe with Fnatic next week. Now, today, Fnatic ended Misfits' winning streak. Next Friday, they're going to look to do it again against Schalke. Now, you put this one in the favor of Fnatic. Just you haven't actually said that yet, but you've told me that they lose to the teams above them. So why don't we talk a little bit about that? I didn't want to put words in your mouth.
That's fine. So, I mean, for a start, Fnatic, funnily enough, play in a similar style to Vitality in that they look for a lot of early fights and rely very heavily on individual skill. They have a lot of creativity in their picks, and they're extremely proactive. But the addition to that is they have the experience and understanding of knowing how to use their lead and where, not just through mid lane pushing, but also like using their side lanes and actually playing around the map. And when you look at like the star power on this roster, you can list off multiple names that can be big carries. And I just don't see that for the side of Schalke. And I just think they're going to play too standard and too safe to be able to deal with the chaotic and proactive style that Fnatic looks to bring.
Because it's the creativity, really, from Fnatic that has impressed me specifically in this week. We talked about the Gangplank Fiddlestick spot lane, the Wukong mid lane today as well. It seems like they're always keeping their opponents off guard, and that allows them to have those really good lane matchups, build that into a strong team fighting and skirmishing mid game that really suits their style.
What's your
they're
opinion?
also 5 individually really good players as well, so that kind of helps. But I think it's they're just a really crazy team, honestly, like in a good way.
Yeah.
Because like today, they just I feel like they've been practicing against Misfits, picking up this Yasuo, because they've seen Senkok so much he prioritized it, and I don't think anyone in the whole world was ready for the Wukong in mid lane, I would say. So I think that's really cool about their team, that they're so flexible and that they're also really good.
I've heard from so many people that Caps will just play anything, and like he can play anything at a high level. This guy is such a committed.
If Nocturne wasn't permabanned, he would have played that mid. I guarantee it.
Every time, huh?
Every time.
You will never let this go. Never gonna just let you get away with that. All right. I mean, it's an interesting matchup. We look back to week 1, and it does seem like both teams are in completely different states compared to what they were. Because you have to remember, Schalke was winning this game. They threw hard at Baron. They let Fnatic just walk up and take a free Baron. This was the brief, reckless era of this Fnatic lineup this season.
The Janna one trick, I remember.
Yep.
Yeah, it was the funnel era too.
Karma.
It's a
Played 2
two-trick.
champions. You know, gotta give him credit. Good support player. Second best support on Fnatic, some would argue. But I'm looking again kind of at the bottom side of the map without Reckless here. Upset and Vander, not a duo we talk about a ton. They've had some good performances. They've had some shaky performances. Bwipo and Hylissang feel like they're steadily rising up. Are Bwipo and Hylissang the best bot lane in EU right now?
So when I did my tier list last week, I put Bwipo as the second best bot laner underneath Hansam. I still think Hansam and Mikyx are the more powerful 2 versus 2, but I could very easily see that being upset the more of these wacky picks we see in the bottom lane, because if they're willing to go completely off the rails and just win lane hard with champions like Gangplank bottom lane, that's so impressive for me to look at and rate them highly.
Memento? Or Vedius, whichever, whoever.
Wait, what was the point there again?
So do you think Bwipo and Hylissang are the best bottom lane in EU right now? They took down Hansam and Mikyx, who I think many people would have considered the best.
But it's the same with like Hylissang and Bwipo are like the same with the X Factor. Like I think these two guys are just really crazy. Like they will go for every single outplay they can. Yeah. And I think Bwipo and Hylissang together are just an explosive combo, which is really scary. But I do think Mikyx and Hansama are a lot more consistent, and I think they are. I would place them at first. For sure.
100% agree. And tying up that into their matchup versus Schalke, one thing I will say about Vander is he's now actually getting involved with the rest of the map more. It's less about the 2v2 with that duo, and it is more about how Vander works with Amazing. And I think a lot of how they've been able to get their wins recently is that Vander's actually roaming effectively, and he's utilizing the early pressure that they have in bot elsewhere on the map. And that's why we've seen things like Vladimir come out from Upset, where he just sits in the lane, survives 1v2s just fine. And what I found is that teams that like to do that tend to struggle against heavy kill bot lanes. So we'll see how well they survive against the Bwipo Hylissang bot lane, because it can definitely be a challenge.
Yeah, I do like the fact that you brought up Vander and his roaming, because I remember pretty distinctly when these teams faced off against each other in week 1, it was such an early game focus from Schalke with Amazing and Vander actually getting a lot of those roams off, and that's where they found that big advantage before they threw at the 20-minute Baron. But it really was important to get all those members on the same page to have that early impact.
Absolutely was.
I do want to say, I really think Vander has stepped up this split. I don't know what happened in off-season, but it looks like he's acquired a brain now. And he's really like, when I see this guy in solo queue as well, like this guy's following me. He knows where I want to go. He contests things with me. Like, and also like when I see him play in LCS, like the roams he does, he just seems that he's become like really smart about the game. And I think Upset as well, like their playstyle is just perfect together. Except I think Vander's just a little old on the mechanics, you know, when you become old, and that's the only criticism I can give.
Knows that
but I know that. I'm so old.
By pro player standards, man, you're ancient.
It's true. I can literally only play point and click champions now.
Nocturne keeps it
and
together.
Wukong.
Is that your new champion? One trick at a time, baby. All right, well, this week was packed with action, and you guys sent in your LCS big plays on Twitter. Here they are, brought to you by Acer Predator. All right, first up, it's no surprises. I'm going to run this one every time I get a chance. It's the greatest play of all time from Schalke's top laner, Vizicachi. He's the 2017 Spring MVP. It was the perfect ultimate, the perfect situation to stop H2K from winning a game on his signature Poppy.
Could be the game-winning play for them if they secure this Elder. They don't know where Schalke are. Now they realize, amazing, shredded through that Black Cleaver doing work. Bam, and knock away! Amazing, get in there! Jackson! That is what you need if you want to make a big play. They catch out Talkench as well. H2K trying to find a fight out of the midst of this all. But Schalke, hello! Schalke, no fear! That is what you need if you're going to win games and if you're going to make it to playoffs.
I'll pick up.
ulti David, 3 people.
Look,
back
we can fight this if they go.
Yeah.
Go
Tam.
Yeah, go Tam, first target, nice. Holy
I got kill.
Go.
Lucian.
I got Gragas as well.
Woo!
Holy
Kill this guy.
You can end.
Nice.
Come here, end.
I'd have to wave.
Come here, end. Holy
Chachi, you're
That's why you play
genius.
That's why you play fucking
Guys,
Poppy.
please, end this game, please.
They're feeling it by the end there. The comms at first, I was like, wow, they're really chill. But then like 30 seconds later, after the play is finally over, they're like, oh my god.
It's just like, yeah.
Now, every time I show that play to a pro player on stage at all, they always have some feedback. How do you feel? A lot of people have been telling me that Kindred should have just pushed Smite, that never should have happened.
I mean, I think there was like a surprise burst. It was 1.4, and then he just went down to 300 at the same time. And then Shook realized, he's like, well, I could probably smite this one. And then he just walks up, and the Vizicachi just gets the... I remember seeing that live. It was the most insane ult I've ever seen.
So
honestly.
insane.
It was
insane.
It was super dirty. And that feeling as you're the Kindred flying away slowly.
Yeah, you know it's gone. You know?
Come back to watch in slow motion as you've just lost what could have been your first win. I'm sorry, Shook, dude. It's just brutal. Yeah. Well, later in the day, Fnatic's mid laner Caps completely took over the game against UOL. His Irelia play left at Eden. Feet Billy completely speechless.
Neon, meanwhile, getting chunked a little low. We check back in with mid because it looks like Caps wants to go all in onto Exile. Level 6 versus level 6, but Caps takes the kill. It does seem to be a strategy that works for Unicorns to send Cold into the mid, and Exile's going to need some more help because we've got another all in here. Gangplank getting a little bit of an assist, and Exile, we've seen this movie before. Exile again. Goes over the wall, and just when he thinks he's out of the woods, double time, and Caps picks up his third.
Exile, it's one of those games.
Yeah, it's tough to say. Wait a second.
Not just Exile. Caps is going even further. Force these fights as, oh, just stop. He's already dead. Here comes the Fiddlesticks. Hylissang going in. Caps right behind him. Blade surging for one. Looking for a second. And he's rooted up under tower, but he's staying alive. And the rest of the team is getting cleaned up. Broxa taking down Cold.
Well, that's 13 kills for Caps. He's actually on the Nexus.
He doesn't need to take the inhibitors. He's going to go ahead and just grab this one all by himself. Wait a minute, pad those stats one more time. How about 14, maybe even 15? And he hasn't died this game. The immortal Caps looking to stack it up. Shut down Gold, 15 kills and a Nexus.
So as a former playtester, when you watch this happen, you sit there and go, we need to nerf that champion again, right?
No, I'm over here like, we need to nerf Caps. That guy is actually hard smurfing at LCS.
2 less fingers. It's not fair for everybody else. Just bind them together. Make them
15, 0, and 3.
And this is the second time this split. The Caps has just ruined somebody's life. Do you remember the Sir Nuke Zyra game?
Oh, yeah.
He literally got one shot like 5 times consecutively.
Yeah, I keep casting these games where Caps has over 10 kills. I'm just like, well, I guess I'm just going to start wildly screaming whenever he throws out a skill shot because it's going to be another kill.
All right, yeah. So if you're a fan of Exile, you can flame Ender. It's Ender's fault every time he cast the game. It goes off. Well, Fnatic and Caps, they didn't stop there. Tonight, they ended Misfits' 9-game winning streak with a dominating win. Let's check out some of the highlights.
Look mid lane.
Comedy of errors. Hylissang's looking for the target. There goes the Cyclone into the dive. Senkax is ignited. Hilly's chasing him, using the dashes to go through, and Hylissang gets the kill. That's Fnatic evening it out.
Hansama definitely does not want to find him. I think Senkax is in trouble.
Well, that's a pretty Goomba stomp onto Senkax.
They're playing versus this.
Oh, look at that damage! Caps destroys Hansama where he stands. Mickey's the next target. Realm War brings Bwipo to the back end, and Maxlaw's now being chased. Alfari's come to the party. He was finally invited, but it's simply too little. It's simply too late. Tefisho, I asked you 20 minutes ago about it, and he is the last man standing. Alfari's Mundo means nothing to Fnatic.
So, we saw Wukong mid today.
Yeah.
I'm rewatching that, and the saddest part to me is when Hansama flashes backwards and he's still inside the Wukong cyclone. That was like the moment where I was like, oh, this game is super donezo. Memento, Wukong. We talked a little bit about Caps pulling out these crazy picks already. What did you think of it from the game? Are you at all nervous about this champion next time you face Fnatic?
Didn't they nerf Wukong recently? Because it was so broken in low elo.
I believe they did.
They did, I'm for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
It, so we won't be seeing it anymore, man.
What do you mean low elo? Like, I'm like, in my elo.
Challenge.
I feel like Wukong's been a solo queue terror for a while. Is it not in Challenger?
I'm not even challenged. I am now.
Yeah. But I thought like it was tormenting everywhere in solo queue. That was my interpretation.
I've seen two types of Wukong. The Wukong who goes 0-10.
Yeah.
And the Wukong who goes 10-0. Like
Yes.
there's no in between.
100%.
And that's like the solo
like
game.
1-1 and 7. I feel for Caps though, because like you feel like that's the performance where he's gonna pop off, and then both the times there's a gank mid lane, he doesn't get the kill.
Yeah, it's like Hillsang's playing Pike, coming by, stealing all the kills. Like, what's up with that, man?
That is the best way to describe Pike. Oh, he's just.
I guess
He's doing his thing.
Below,
He's just doing his thing.
Making really loud noises with the W in the eye.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, we're gonna get more big plays next week. Starting with Unicorns of Love versus Misfits Gaming. Now, you might think this would be a one-sided matchup, and you might be right. I was like, where are you going with that? But maybe this is when Exile pops off. We've seen it happen. You might not have faith. If you don't want to hit on that point, tell me about a different matchup, friends. What are you guys excited about?
H2K versus Rocket. I can't wait to see that Memento guy play more League of Legends. What an insane player. I absolutely love that guy. Hey, Memento. Whoa.
Memento, you feeling good about your H2K matchup?
Yeah, I do. But even though they're 0-10, I don't think they're worth like underestimating. Because I've always.
Do you think they've been looking better this week? That's kind of been the debate on the broadcast team.
I think they looked more like they do not care anymore.
Okay.
It felt like they're really playing with confidence now, you know? There's,
I see.
It's in that kind of way. So, in a sense, like I said it last split as well, when they were 0-6 or something, or 1-6, that a team that has nothing to lose is always the scariest, because they don't really care. They just go all in. And they are really confident in their plays. So that's kind of why I think they looked a lot better this week. And I think they should have picked up at least 2 wins, honestly.
So, how much extra pressure does it add to potentially be the team that would give the 0-10 team their first win?
I mean, it doesn't really... Honestly, for me, it doesn't really matter. Every team is the same, you know. You face a team and you focus on yourself. Like
that's a good mentality to have. If I was against H2K, I'd be terrified because I do not want to be the only team that ended up losing to H2K.
Well,
that
you're
would
also
be me,
like
though.
Diamond 5.
Sorry. But if you have Memento on your team,
I'd be fine.
Better. All right.
He would camp my lane.
The Memento power out.
But I did actually... I did kind of like that Misfits had not been beaten yet. Yesterday I was really excited. I wanted to be the first team to beat them, but then we just ended up getting smashed. But you know, it was a nice
Fnatic
play.
were excited too. They played Wukong, but you guys should have played Wukong. Maybe
Yeah, I think that was the key.
But then you would have lost the G2 today. You know, win some, lose some.
I mean, we're just cursed. We have to go 1-1 every week, no matter what. It doesn't matter what we do.
Well, we're gonna hope. Actually, wait. Here's the question: would you rather lose the game to H2K or lose your day 2 game than if you have to go 1-1 every week?
I don't know who we face day 2.
Don't look at me.
Yeah, Dracos. It would be great to know who they played.
Someone will tell me very shortly in my ear, so I don't.
What if they tell me? What are you gonna do?
Okay, they said, yeah, good luck in my ear. Ladies and gentlemen, is how and where we can call it a night. They play Vitality, thank you. So we'll find out. We've got some action coming up in the NA LCS. Echo Fox versus 100 Thieves is the first game there. We'll also have a broadcast or rebroadcast of the ULCS. So if you missed anything, be sure to tune in for that. It's a struggle, boys. We're getting through the words. All right, that was all from us there in Week 5. Thank you so much to everyone who watched. We'll be back next Friday for more action in the EU LCS. Have a wonderful night. Thank you, Memento, for joining us.
Thank
both you for showing up. Good times all around.
Showing up. Good job on you guys doing your job.
Like Denmark.
Oh, God. Oh, yeah.
Wait,
have to postpone that. Yeah, but we have to do it next week then.
That's
on Friday.
That's fine.
split, of course. And all these teams want to pick up big wins. Here's Chachi.
Chachi going in. There's the Weaver's Wall from the side as well. Toshiro will jump himself away with the Phantom Undertow, but Neon is the first target. He's down. Schalke with the backdoor, and they will be able to take the win in the end here, you have to feel. Double knockup, double charm, the chase continues. Ruin with the wall up onto Promise Juice, stuns him up. Great double knockback as the TP comes in. Smitty J there as well. Betty jumps onto the backline. 1v1 versus Shook. Around the Baron will take the win on the back of Sir Nuke's the locked engage.
This is exactly what you talked about, Verius. The proactive play from Vitality. Gilius is a little bit drowsy and sleepy. He's getting shut down by shots 1 and 2. The third catches Jack Troll. The fourth tags him on the way out. And Maxlaw's now being chased. Alfari's come to the party. He was finally invited, but it's simply too little. It's simply too late. To fish who I asked you 20 minutes ago about it. Mickey and Hamsan are doing what little they can. The Nexus Tower is being dropped down. Fnatic defeat the undefeatable Misfits. Protects the right. Oh! Snipes down Yankos and Blank. That was beautiful.